Start out with today's fasting update, and just as a format, what I think I'm going to do each day is talk about what actually is going on, what the key theme is for the day. Just in terms of this is a well documented process. I mean, it's generally pretty consistent amongst people, and then I'm going to walk through scientifically what's actually going on in the body, and then give some tips, just some pro tips for how to deal with any issues that might arise. And then I'll share my own personal experience, because I really want to start documenting this. As I said, I've done a number of these. I don't know how many times I've done a 7-day fast, but I really want to start, developing tools, and who knows, I might even create a more formal offering or create a course or something on this moving forward, because I think that this is so powerful, and it's taken me years to compile information from a bunch of different sources. And one thing where I think that there's huge advantage is if you actually get groups of people engaging in the fast at the same time. Because you think about these political activism, fasts. Well, you have Gandhi, you have Cesar Chavez, you have these people that are engaging these fasts, but it's usually one person doing the fast, and then other people kind of looking to that. But I think there's actually more power in a group of people, and in fact, a group of people that can then interact in a fasted state. But today's theme is that really now ketosis is kicking in, and the fat is beginning to melt. You're beginning to see a bit of lifting of brain fog, and you're really beginning at the very early stages of turning into a fat burning machine. And so what's actually going on scientifically is you first depleted your glycogen stores, so you're basically your carb stores, and so that's beginning to run low. And now what your body is doing is it's taking your adipose tissue and it's breaking it into fat in the liver and creating ketones. And then those ketones become your fuel source moving forward. And I'll tell you, it is a powerful, clean fuel source. Once you get fully what's called fat adapted, and once you're fully optimized and running entirely on ketones, you will be stunned about how much energy you have, how much mental clarity you have. I mean, it really is something that, I don't think there's any drug that actually matches your own body when it's in a full state of ketosis during a fast. So we're now at the very early stages of that. But if you're participating along on day 2, these are some of the common symptoms that you might have, or difficulties you might be encountering. You might have hunger pangs, which kind of go in and out, again, until you are fully working on and your body's efficiently running entirely on fat. You are going to go through these cycles. You may have a headache. You may have fatigue. You're going to start to have keto breath, and then maybe even a little bit of dizziness. So for the hunger pangs, what you can do is you can actually use sip herbal tea. That'll actually help a bit. With headaches, it's very important to remain hydrated and to add salt. And I'll say more on that. And I'll probably talk about that every day that we're doing a fast, which is you really want to make sure you don't want to just drink pure water. You're going to have a hard time with that. I mean, you will get dizzy. You will have a whole bunch of other issues. It actually can be pretty serious in terms of an electrolyte imbalance. So you want to focus on electrolytes and salt. With fatigue, as your body's switching fuel sources, it's good to go for a walk. Like, I actually went for a walk today. I didn't lift weights today. You wouldn't want to do any strenuous physical activity, but a nice slow walk is actually really an effective thing to do on day 2. Ketones work. When your body starts operating on ketones, you will get what is called ketone breath, or keto breath. And so, depending on your situation, particularly if you're at work, you might want to, rinse with water or chew a mint that doesn't have sugar or anything in it, maybe a sugar-free mint, preferably something with, that's not like sucralose or something like that. So in any event, and then dizziness, you may have issues with low blood sugar. And if you're really new at it and it's a real issue, you might actually want to have a little bit of broth. I don't have any broth, at this point, but if you're getting new to it and you really are having an issue, I have known some people that have had real serious dips in blood sugar, and that can be a problem where you really just can't function. So I've created a couple of memes that, I'm going to start building a library of these and kind of circulating them and building them as a library, but just as kind of like, pro tips, salt, lick it, love it. This is really Salt is your friend. Contrary to what public health and everybody's been trying to warn you about, salt is actually a very good thing. In fact, I just took a bit of salt. That's kind of like my energy boost. If I ever am like really starting to drag a little bit, just a little pinch of salt in my water or my coffee will go a long way. Tea is also your hunger shield. Peppermint or chamomile are really good for killing cravings. So, keep that in mind as well. And then again, you want to walk slow. So your body is cooking, your body is starting to burn fat. And so you want to use gentle movements at this point. You don't want to be doing any marathons, and you don't want to be doing any really strenuous activities at this point in the process. Each day I want to spotlight one of the huge benefits, health benefits of fasting. And today I'm going to focus on the fact that, fasting really is an inflammatory powerhouse. And so what happens is when you get into ketosis, ketosis lowers cytokines, and cytokines are huge inflammation triggers. And so when that happens, you will start to see the easing of pain, and you will start to see the easing of chronic disease. And I've had this happen. In fact, outside of getting COVID, for the last 5 years, I haven't used any medication, haven't gone to a doctor. And whenever I have actually been in ill health, I've fasted, and it's been amazing to see what's happened. I even had gastrointestinal problems one time, and which was an inflammatory response. And so I actually fasted for a couple of days, and that resolved it. But I've actually had issues where, inflammation in my hands went away. I think, brain fog is inflammation. It's a whole, it's just worked wonders on literally all kinds of inflammation. And I can already tell where I was having some inflammation has already begun to subside a little bit in my knees and everything else. And I could tell this on my walk today. So each day I'll talk about some of the amazing overall fasting health benefits. I also want to each day talk about one of the things that comes up the deeper and the further you get into a fast is you start thinking about your relationship to food, and you start questioning everything. You start questioning things not only about food, but about kind of how the world works in general. But, in fact, I think maybe tomorrow I might pick the top 10 lies that we've heard overall about nutrition and about public health. Things like the food pyramid, things like, the breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Once you start digging through these things that have been just drilled into our head through marketing or in health textbooks, and then you actually start examining them during your own experience while you're not eating food, what you'll find when you do the research is, in actuality, it's all bullshit, and there was no scientific basis for it. Usually there's some other reason for it, and it was either financially motivated, or it was marketing, or it was propaganda. So we'll go through that. But one of the most common is this idea is eating 3 meals a day necessary? Or is it a modern construct? Well, if you can guess what the answer, it's a modern construct. It actually started in the 19th century because factory bosses decided we needed 3 squares to keep the industrial machine humming and to keep this aligned with shifts. It has absolutely nothing to do with health. It has nothing to do with science. There's no study behind this. This was literally something that was designed by factory owners, and no one ever revisited it. And this is what you'll find. So if you look at something as simple as, do we need to eat 3 squares a day? Well, they actually start questioning everything about how, why do we work 9 to 5? Why is this structured like this? You will begin during the fasting process to question absolutely everything. And that's great. And so I'm going to highlight every day at least one thing like this, where it's something that most people have just never thought about. It's just been kind of a natural. They've just assumed it's always been this way, and that it's always been this way for a reason. And then when, you dig into it and you find out there was no reason, and it was all just made up. So the other thing is I'll talk about my personal reflections again on my experience for today. So day 2 is actually one of the most difficult days of the fast. Day 2, and then maybe day 3, it depends on how bad your situation was going into the fast in terms of your insulin levels and where you are, and a whole variety of things. But usually day 2 is the roughest, because that's when you're really beginning this transition from glycogen to using ketones. My experience was I woke up this morning, I was very, very tired, and I was hungry, and a little bit, a little bit cranky. And then the other thing is, which I'll talk about it also in more detail, because as we do kind of a spotlight on these things, I had kind of diarrhea. And there's an interesting thing. I mean, bowel movements aren't usually a fun thing to talk about, but I will say that there is a very interesting process when fasting, because you are absolutely cleaning out your gut bacteria. I mean, this is a great way. I mean, the good news is you're getting rid of good and bad gut bacteria, but more of an emphasis on the bad gut bacteria. So you'll go through a period of time, if you're like 7 days, 10 days, 14 days into a fast, where obviously you're not eating anything, but stuff is coming out. And the stuff that's coming out is kind of the really bad stuff that is in your gut biome that you actually want to get rid of. But it is a little bit nasty and it doesn't smell great. So I'm giving you a little forewarning for that. Today, I felt okay physically. I will say I wanted to get more work done today than I did. I had a lot of stuff to do with clips and actually even getting this podcast together and putting together some research, but I was running a little bit slower than I might otherwise. In fact, I thought I was going to present an article that I've been working on about Curtis Yarvin and Yuval Harari, but I didn't even get time to work on that today. But I did get time to take a walk. And so in the end, things were starting to perk up by the end of the day. And the walk really helped. The walk was a great way to break things up. I generally find when I get hungry, I actually try to become active when I'm hungry, as opposed to, just sitting there feeling miserable. I'll use that as an opportunity to, if the weather's nice, go for a walk, or I have a treadmill desk. So just, I find that actually is, just kind of a trigger for me. So I feel a little bit of a hunger pain, and I actually try to do a little bit of activity. I felt pretty good emotionally. I've actually felt very, very positive and very engaged. I'm very excited about this whole initiative. I actually think I'm excited about being able to introduce people to fasting, because it actually fits in with voluntarism. It actually fits in with Roger's philosophy, my philosophy as well. I mean, this is something where you are taking control of your own health, and you are really taking responsibility for, not eating, but in the process of not eating, it really does focus you to do an incredible amount of self-examination. So it is a terrific thing that I think is ideologically aligned with Roger's principles, and it's for a good cause that I think will be successful in raising awareness. Again, hopefully I'm going to decide on Monday how much longer than 7 days I'm going to do the fast. I'm willing to go a pretty long way. I'm hoping, again, I hope every day that we find out that his situation is resolved. So that's how I've been today. I mean, my health metrics, my heart rate variability, I have a 8 sleep bed. So if you guys are familiar with this, but it has sensors in the bed. It measures your heart rate variability, measures your snoring, measures your, sleep cycles. How much deep sleep did you get? How much light sleep? So I actually had a pretty good night in terms of my heart rate variability was higher than average. The other metrics were a little bit off. I didn't get as much deep sleep as I normally get, but it wasn't anything, wildly off one way or another. And if you are measuring these kinds of things, if you have a tracker, I mean, again, if stay on top of this, as I said yesterday, you want to be compassionate with yourself. So, I mean, if you're finding that you are really out of line and something's not right, then, it's okay to break the fast. You don't have to injure yourself, especially if you're new at it and you're kind of gradually moving into it. I'm going to reiterate my reflections for yesterday, which is you want to get electrolyte powder. I recommend Dr. Berg's electrolyte powder because it has potassium, and you want to do salt and coffee and then tea as well. Chamomile and peppermint are good as well. I'm not as much of a tea person, so I actually stick with coffee, but it is recommended. And if you are a tea drinker, that will help. So today's focus with respect to Roger is going to be on Roger's impact on the world. And I think